when you were setting up Workera, how did you make the particular framework or software language decisions that you made? Those end up being critical as the platform grows. So how did you, yeah, how did you make your decisions, and what decisions did you make?
Mm. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So, um, first thing to know is Workera is a remote company. Today we're about 60 people, and we're split across 20 countries. So it's really
Wow.
distributed. The way you run a remote company is very different from the way you run a company in the office. And to be effective, you need to bring certain levels of structure. And so at Workera, we use ShapeUp, a slightly modified version of ShapeUp, which is a Basecamp's model, and it works very well for us. So one thing that we do is just for people who are not familiar with ShapeUp, is instead of saying we have this roadmap, how long is it going to take us to build this feature or that feature, we flip the problem and we say we have 8 weeks. That's our company's heartbeat. And what can we deliver in 8 weeks? It's actually 6 weeks plus 2 weeks of cooldown, but essentially, what can we deliver in this time frame? So we flip the problem, and this makes it much more structured. It forces our team to be very lean and very, iterative, which we love. It's also good to keep the ropes tight when you're remote and you don't meet everyone on a daily basis. We do meet regularly in events. And so the reason I'm mentioning all this context is because it influences the way we build our products and the tech stack that we use. We started Workera with Python majorly because Python is an easy start. But one thing that we observe with Python is you can do so much with Python, and you have it's so high level that you have the flexibility to make mistakes as well. It doesn't push you to think about the system at the ground level. So more recently, we have keep using Python for certain things, but we also added to our stack Elixir, which is a dynamic functional programming language. It has a very modern syntax. It takes more time to get used to Elixir, but the reason we like it is because it allows us to cut certain communication lines. And for a product data AI organization to be effective, you need to empower each engineer or scientist to do as much as they can. And with Elixir, one engineer can actually do so much. And so there is less back and forth because people can be full owner of a certain slice of the product. And this has been a good thing for us. And we are already seeing an increase in productivity for engineers who have embraced Elixir.
Wow. So there are a number of popular functional programming languages out there as options for you to work with. How did you choose Elixir specifically? That probably isn't one of the top 5 most popular functional programming languages.
Yeah, I think it's very trending. We also find that engineers who know Elixir are usually really good, honestly, and it's a programming language that a certain type of people really like. Also, we had our head of engineering who spearheaded a lot of these decisions, and I learned a lot from, who was very bought into the way Elixir deals with concurrency, the way it allows us to remove certain communication lines, and the way it thinks about data types. And beyond that, we also had a few experts, because when you do a tech stack change, it's very important to have champions that can champion this change and actually educate the rest of the team to become proficient at a new programming framework. Mm-hmm. So this was also another tailwind for us.
Is Elixir one of the skills covered in the Workera platform?
Not yet. Coming.
I bet Python is, though, yeah?
Yeah, Python is, TensorFlow, PyTorch, a lot of the packages on top of Python that are commonly used in data science.
Nice, cool. Yeah, so for now you need champions, Elixir champions, but maybe in the future you wouldn't. You could just have people doing skills tests and taking the right courses online and upskilling themselves. Super cool.
Exactly.
Nice. Do you end up using, you just mentioned machine learning libraries like TensorFlow, PyTorch. Do you use those kinds of automatic differentiation libraries as well?
Yeah, not as much as I'd like to today anymore, but The fun thing actually is I was using TensorFlow many years ago when there was only graph execution. Eager execution didn't even
Oh yeah.
exist,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm realizing when I look at now the documentation that the tool has changed so much, and I think
Yeah.
this is a reflection of how fast the AI space as a job category is evolving, and how important it is to always remain up to date if you want
Yeah.
to be effective and productive. And unfortunately, I haven't been as productive over the last year in TensorFlow, but I've caught other skills as well in the meantime.
Yeah. So yeah, PyTorch forced TensorFlow to become much easier, like eager
Mm-hmm.
execution with the TensorFlow 2.0 release. But that was actually kind of annoying for me as somebody who was teaching deep learning, because all of a sudden I didn't have nearly as much that I had to teach students.
For sure.
No, I'm joking, but it was actually, it's really great because it meant that in the same, say, in a 5 weekend course, instead of having to spend a weekend or two just on how to set up your graphs and execute them
Mm-hmm.
effectively, I could then have just 1 weekend spent doing the basics, and then that would free up another weekend for getting into really cool stuff like generative adversarial networks or deep reinforcement learning that there otherwise might not have been time for. So it's, yeah, as you say, it is so cool, this industry that we work in. I think I say this on air all the time, but it's so exciting to be working in an industry where year over year things can completely change in a way that makes your life as a data scientist or as a machine learning engineer or as a software developer easier and easier. And it sounds like Elixir, which I have not looked into very much before, is another one of these tools that is making development easier across the board.
Yeah. And to clarify, from a software engineering perspective, we're using Elixir, but for our AI practice, we're still using Python naturally, given the amount
Yeah,
of frameworks and packages that run on top of it.